Coach Ybarra here. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens when you get triggered and what that means for your food intake. What I mean by triggered is a setting, a part of an environment, a particular food, something that begins a cascading event of emotions, of actions that can lead you to overconsumption of food, making poor choices, and then that really leaves you with a feeling of guilt, a feeling of shame, particularly if you're on your weight loss journey. It can be really difficult to remove yourself from some of those habits that, when I say triggered, are triggered by, like I said, a specific action. And so what does that mean in real life? You have an emotional day and you come home and you use food as a means of solace to take you away from those feelings, almost like the food itself is that comfort. We talk about comfort foods. We talk about emotional eating. You know, your boss yells at you at work, or you didn't accomplish something that you wanted to. That outlet is food. The first time it happens, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a trigger. However, the behavior of continuing to lean on that each time that something like that happens, then it does become a trigger. It is, oh, this happened at work, I didn't achieve something that I was hoping to achieve, and then that's the trigger to the behavior afterward. And the same can apply to environment. So, you know, every Friday as a kid, you had meals out, for example. That is a long-standing habit that can continue once you're on your own. And then as soon as Friday evening happens, you get there after the end of the week, the trigger is set and the behavior afterward occurs. This weekend, the Super Bowl was a good example. The trigger is being around others and, you know, a potluck style event. And your overconsumption is something that has happened year after year. And that can be a really challenging habit to break. And in order to do so, you really have to take some time to reflect. What is the environment that I'm in? What is the trigger? Is it an emotional thing? Am I not prepared? That can be a place where I haven't prepared myself mentally for the event because I know that X, Y, and Z will be there. And I'm going to want to eat all of those things. And the outcome can be significant overconsumption and then either restriction, which is not great either. I'm not going to eat anything the next day or the next few days, or very limited food the next few days. Over exercise. I better burn off all the calories, even though we know that that is really, really difficult and often not even accomplishable, depending on how many calories you consume. You know, it leads to some guilt, some shame, and almost like a restarting. It's not uncommon for what was a New Year's resolution goal starting January 1st to buy a Super Bowl being put on the back burner again because you made some traction and then events happen and then you're back to square one. Now, I talked earlier about making sure that you work through it. If that's the case, you continue to go on and push through and get started again. But spending some time evaluating, what are the triggers? You know, is it an emotional thing? Am I associating particular foods with this emotion that makes me feel better? And is there another avenue that I can replace that food with a different action or activity that provides me similar joy and similar positive outcomes? So all things to consider when reviewing what your triggers are, and really it takes a lot of self-reflection, a lot of self-honesty, but it's certainly something that can be overcome with a little bit of work and a little bit of empathy to yourself and really understanding that some of those things are not always your fault. They have just been ingrained into you over a period of time or significant periods of time, and that it's going to take some time to rebuild that habit.